This is the Highly Sensitive Club, episode number 10. Have you been told you're too sensitive, too dramatic, or too much? Do you have big feelings and deep thoughts you don't always know what to do with? I'm Stephanie Lynn, a certified life coach and highly sensitive person. I've helped dozens of highly sensitive clients feel more energized, more confident, and more in control of their high sensitivity. In these episodes, you'll get the information and inspiration to level up your life as a highly sensitive person too. Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Club. Hello there, highly sensitive person. In today's episode of the Highly Sensitive Club, I want to talk to you about the number one habit that's keeping you from being productive, taking back your time, and making more money. And I want to continue this episode as part of my series on solving problems that are very typical for highly sensitive people. The first one was on procrastination, and we're just continuing on with this one. Now, this problem that's keeping you from being productive, taking back your time and making more money, it's not perfectionism, although they are besties and they are often running amok together. It's actually procrastination. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how to get things done without the stress and the back and forth, so you have more time to read books, go for walks in the woods, take a yoga class or a dance class, or have a tasty hot beverage and catch up with your loved one. I personally like tea, but if you're a coffee drinker, more power to you. And I also want you to become someone who gets things done, not someone who hides and avoids the tough stuff, hoping it'll go away or get easier later. Typically, it doesn't. In fact, it gets harder, and we put ourselves through so much stress as highly sensitive people, waiting for things to get better in the future instead of taking action now. We are all familiar with procrastination, which is pushing things off that are important to us in favor of doing something easy or comfortable instead. Anytime you're avoiding doing something important, even if it feels like you're being productive, you're procrastinating. And this is indeed a habit. This is something that you have probably done so much over the course of your life that your primitive brain has taken it over and gone, okay, cool, I got this on autopilot. We're going to procrastinate everything. No problem. If you have seen a horse jump by any means, whether you have been a rider or whether you've seen it in a movie or on a TV show or a competition, you might notice that sometimes a horse gets a little bit skittish before they make a jump and they have to circle maybe once or twice, maybe even 3 times. Sometimes if the rider is a little skittish, it makes the horse skittish and they have to circle before they're willing to make the jump. That is what you're doing when you're procrastinating. You still have to make the jump. You still want to do the important thing, but you're just circling and circling and circling, and you could make it so much faster and easier on yourself. Side effects of procrastination include stress, guilt, anxiety, discouragement, and still having to do the thing, but piling all these heavy emotions on top of it. You are making it twice as painful to have that tough conversation or write the post or look at your budget or put yourself out there when you avoid doing the important stuff. As a highly sensitive person, procrastination is even more painful for you because you're feeling the guilt and the distress and the discouragement so intensely, so much more intensely than average people. And you're still probably looping on the task in the background, even when you're trying to distract yourself with a video game or a phone game or scrolling on Facebook. And you're more likely to form the habit of procrastinating because your highly sensitive brain is used to pulling a rabbit out of a hat at the last minute, so your brain starts to equate the stress with success. This is not true. You can have success at any time without procrastinating. It's just that you've gotten yourself into the habit. And because you, as a highly sensitive person, create such high quality work, I know that you want to be able to get things done without getting decision fatigue. You want to cut out the guilt and the stress from your day as much as possible. And frankly, I believe you deserve to use your sensitivity to get things done easier, not with more difficulty. When you're using your sensitivity to your advantage, it actually makes things easier and simpler for you. It doesn't make it more difficult. So I want you to start using your sensitivity in your brain to your advantage and not to your deficit. Your highly sensitive nuance this week, because I know you're curious, well, what about this thing, Steph? Well, yes, there is a difference between procrastinating and processing. Processing or preparing means you're getting clear on what you want. You're getting clear on how you in particular want to go about doing things and taking the actions, because how you want to do it is slightly different than how someone else is going to want to do it. And when you're preparing and when you're processing, you're making yourself willing to take the action even when it's uncomfortable. You create a plan for yourself and you schedule it into your calendar. That is when you know that you're processing and you're preparing. Processing becomes procrastination, and there is a line, when you've done enough prep to get going, but you're still stalling. You've done your reflections, you've done your meditations, you've put it on the calendar, and you're still not taking the leap. That's procrastinating. I used to love the motto, procrastinators unite. Tomorrow! I thought that was hilarious. It was all over my Zanga, if you had a Zanga way back when. Shout out to my millennials and Gen Xers. I was a chronic procrastinator, especially during my school days. And then I became an entrepreneur, and I spent 5 years as a professional organizer, and I've spent the last 2 years as a coach, which changed my complete outlook on procrastination and how to get things done. And now I've turned around and I've helped every single one of my clients overcome procrastination in one form or another. This is such a common problem for highly sensitive people. Here are some of the classics. Procrastinating, 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 maybe even procrastinating. Yes, all of these things can be procrastination. You might still want to do some research or some learning. Cleaning up your home is probably a great thing to do, but are you doing it when you actually have something you are not looking forward to doing that you really need to get done or that you really want to get done to make progress on a project? This list can go on, but they're all forms of procrastination, and they seem productive to us. They seem like we're getting things done. Isn't it great that we're cleaning up the bathroom finally, or we're taking care of the kitchen? But when we're avoiding the thing that we really want to do, we're actually causing more suffering for ourselves, because there's going to be time to take care of the kitchen or the bathroom or whatever it is that you're procrastinating with later. But the best time to do the work that you want to do is early on. I want to share with you a very simple plan that I use and that I use with my clients to help you stop procrastinating on the things you really want to do, because I know that's the kind of person you want to become. That's why you're listening to this podcast in the first place. So the very simple step-by-step process is, number 1, get your mind right. Number 2, make a plan. Number 3, get support and accountability. And number 4, get things done efficiently and confidently. This is also known as success. Because the world needs you to get your highly sensitive buns in gear without putting yourself through so much unnecessary suffering. And you are putting yourself through a lot of unnecessary suffering every time you procrastinate, my dear HSP. The less you procrastinate, the more impact you have in your life and in your business. So here's a brief overview of how this 4-step process works. Technically, the 4th step is to succeed. You actually get to do the thing. But the steps leading up to it can require a little bit more information. So I'm going to spell them out for you. Step 1 is get your mind right. There is a moment that happens when you know there's something you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be reaching out to someone to schedule an appointment. You're supposed to be telling your loved one you want to have a tough conversation with them. You're supposed to be checking out your budget. You're supposed to be scheduling your time maybe. And there's something that happens in your brain in that moment, and we often don't even realize it. But when we slow down our thoughts long enough, there's some kind of negotiation that's happening in our mind where we're saying something like, I don't have to do this now. I can do this later. This is really not fun. I don't have the energy. I don't want to. I need to get some motivation. I need to get some inspiration. Maybe I'll just journal about this first. There are all these thoughts going through our mind, depending on what the task is. Maybe I'll just do this easy thing first just to get myself going, right? And those thoughts seem very harmless, but they're not. They're actually getting in the way of you taking massive action in your life, because real action on the things that are important to us, like starting a side gig, writing a book, creating art, having tough conversations, and building wonderful relationships with your loved ones. All of those things are way more important than answering an email or journaling about a reflection question. So when you can pinpoint that moment of negotiation and slow it down and figure out what are the thoughts that are causing you to procrastinate, suddenly you start to have a lot more power over your situation. Then you can start to choose new thoughts that will actually help you get shit done, because that's why you're here. You are here in this one beautiful, precious life, this embodied experience that you're having right now, to get the things done that you truly desire and want to get done, not all this busy work just because it's familiar and it's easy. So when you pinpoint that thought and come up with your new thoughts, if you want help with this, I love doing this. This is my specialty. You can commit yourself to your goals, and it makes it easier to come back to your why over and over again. Anytime you start to get that temptation, like, ooh, I'd rather go do something else right now, it's okay. You can tell yourself that's just an urge. I'm here because I want to leave my mark in the world. I want to create something amazing. I want to connect with someone I really care about, and that is way more important than going off and doing this other thing right now. Step 2 is make a plan. So once you've got your mind right, this involves making decisions so that you can save your mental energy for actually taking the action. If you are making decisions every single day over and over again, you are wasting so much time and energy, especially because we have limited resources and limited energy throughout the day to actually make decisions. So if you are making the same decisions over and over again, day after day, or you're waking up and you're going into your office and you're going, what was I supposed to do today? You're wasting your time and you're wasting your energy, and you don't have to. I want better for you. So I'm going to share with you a holdover from my professional organizing days. And this is from Stephen Covey, who created the Covey model. I imagine you've probably heard of it, but as a recap, this is called the Big Rocks model of scheduling. The big rocks are your most important things, and they're probably not particularly urgent. These are things that nobody's holding your feet to the fire to, unless you have a coach or a mentor, but that you really want to do. You want to lose the weight. You want to write the book. You want to start your business. These are important things that you have to force yourself to do. You have to hold yourself accountable to until you can get your mind in the right place. The small rocks are usually urgent things, maybe not as important things, but they're still things that need to get done. Then there's the sand, which is all of the extra busy work. It's the emails, it's the paperwork, it's the checking and making phone calls or sending text messages, all that extra little stuff. And then the water is everything else. It's the doom scrolling, it's the Netflix binging, it's the talking to someone instead of taking care of something that you want to do. There is actually room for all of these things, and I will tell you about the analogy that Stephen Covey uses. So if you put your big rocks in first, it might look, so you put them in a bucket or you put them in a jar, and it might look like, oh my gosh, this is totally full. I don't have any room for anything else. But then you have all these small rocks, these little pebbles, and you can pour them into the bucket, and you find that they fill in all the little gaps in between the big rocks. And you think, that's it. There can't possibly be any more room. But sand is even smaller than that. And you often take all these little bite-sized chunks, all those little text messages, all those little checks on Facebook and all those likes. That's all sand. They're just those little teeny tiny, maybe 10-second things that you're doing that can fill in around the big rocks and the small rocks. So when you pour the sand in, suddenly you have room for those things too. But wait, there's also time for the water. There's time for getting distracted every once in a while, or being able to take a break because your loved one came in and wanted to talk to you when you're having your 15-minute break or your 30-minute break. There's room for all of those things when you put them in the right order. However, imagine you dump out the big rocks and the small rocks and the sand and the water, and you fill up your bucket with water only. When you try to put a big rock in there, all the water's going to splash over, and that's when it starts to get stressful. Same thing happens with sand. If you're answering emails or writing up papers or doing all this extra busy work, the journaling, the meditation, things that are good for you in their own time, suddenly, again, there's no room for the big rocks, there's no room for the small rocks, and the water can fill in, but then you have sandy, goopy water, and it's like, nobody wants to touch that. That's not fun. See where I'm going with this? When you plan your big rocks first, there's always room for those, and those are the most important things in your life. When we look at the regrets of the dying, they're always saying that there are things that they wish they had done, and those are the biggest regrets they have. I want you to go after the things that you want so that you're not living a life full of regret and you're not living on autopilot. I don't want you on cruise control anymore. So after you get your mind right and after you make a plan, step 3 is to get support and accountability. This could be a friend or a family member. This could be a community, like if you're losing weight, for instance, or trying to exercise, you might find a running group so that you have accountability. You might hire a personal trainer, or you might hire a coach, someone like me, who can go on the journey with you and keep checking in, keep you accountable. And a coach is great because we can actually help you with all the little mindset things that are going to come up and all those little negotiations that it can be hard for you to slow down and figure out on your own. As I mentioned, procrastinating is a habit, and it's going to take conscious effort to break this probably long-standing pattern that you have. That's why you don't have to do it alone. And in fact, you're more likely to achieve it with someone there to guide and support you. Now, knowing which motivation style works best for you is going to be really helpful here. Do you like rewards for getting things done? Maybe it's a congratulations or a celebration, or are you more of a negative consequence kind of person? Do you need to write a check to an organization you don't like in order to make sure that you absolutely take care of that room you're supposed to be organizing? And that brings us to step 4. When you get your mind right, you make a plan, and you find support and accountability, suddenly you start getting things done confidently and efficiently, and you start building that new habit. When you do these steps, you will be amazed at how much you can get done and on time. Even 30 minutes a day on your most important thing is a lot more time than waiting until you're inspired or motivated that one time a month, that blue moon in the month to get things done. Imagine if you're spending 30 minutes of concentrated focus time every single day on the most important thing on your docket. That's 2.5 hours Monday through Friday, as opposed to maybe an hour or two that you're spending once a month. But 2.5 hours by 4 times a week, that's 10 hours right there. You've just spent 10 consistent hours every single day putting time and energy into the thing that you love and you want the most, instead of procrastinating, which is what you do when you're waiting for inspiration to strike. On a side note, you can actually create inspiration, and if you're interested, I'll tell you more at the end. Waiting until a deadline or for inspiration to strike you like the muse, it's a losing battle, and one that you're probably playing over and over with yourself, hoping that something will change. You can change yourself from the inside out and create the results you want on the outside in your external life whenever you want. You can absolutely break the habit of procrastinating, which will turn you into someone who's capable, who's confident, and who's resilient. You can become someone who trusts yourself to get things done and not to stress yourself out and fight yourself internally while you're trying to do it. I have had clients go from refusing to step into a room in the house to going in there multiple times a week, organizing it and tidying it until it's completely usable. And now she and her grandkids can go in there anytime they want and get exactly what they need because it's done. That is what the power of habits and overcoming procrastinations can do. I have a client who has a voiceover side gig. He's growing his business, and he was struggling to make the time to do auditions until we worked on his thoughts. So we got his mind right. And then we scheduled it at a time that was actually more convenient than the time he'd been doing it in order to do the auditions. That couple of tweaks made such a huge difference and made him so excited. I have a client who wanted to write a book and went from writing 0 words per day to 500 words a day or more. Sometimes she would write up to 1,500 just by pairing it with her habit of walking. She would walk and then she would write immediately when she was done. That is how you schedule and stop procrastinating. Another client was stalled on writing literally for years, even though it's her passion. And she built a new habit around writing by journaling a few times a week to start, just to get into the habit. And now she journals almost daily. As an HSP, we do worse than the average person when we're not feeling good, when we're anxious, when we're stressed, when we're guilty. We're feeling it more intensely, and so we're weighed down heavier than the average person. But when we're in control of our time, when we're in control of our mind, and when we're feeling our emotions and not resisting them, we're actually happier and more productive than the average person. This can be a superpower if you let it be. So imagine how great it'll feel when you can tackle tough conversations without hesitation, when you can make headway regularly on your writing projects, your personal projects, and on important plans like travel and connecting with your favorite people. You can learn how to be someone who gets things done without having to stress. The stress is optional, so you can learn to stop procrastinating. If you have tried to stop procrastinating many times and still need help, I would love for you to book a free call with me. I would be happy, literally happy, this is what I do every day, to help you figure out the number one reason you're procrastinating and how to get what you want with a personal plan of action. All you have to do is show up to the call and you will leave with your own plan. You'll already be 2 steps of the way through. I would love it if you would go to stephanielynn.com to book your call, and that information will be in the show notes. That is your next action step. If you want that support and accountability, come and talk to me because I am here for it. This is exactly what I do with my clients. Now, to recap, procrastination is avoiding or distracting yourself from something that's actually really important or that you need to get done. It is different than processing because processing is about getting centered, preparing to take action even when you're uncomfortable, and even making a plan for yourself so that you know what to expect. It goes into procrastination when you have enough to get started, but you're still stalling. And there are 4 steps to get out of procrastination. Number 1 is to get your mind right. Number 2 is to make a plan. Number 3 is to find support or accountability, which will create step number 4, getting things done confidently, consistently, and efficiently. I have been there. I've helped my clients get out of procrastination too, and I would love to help you as well. Book your call and let's talk about it because you do not need to spend another day procrastinating on the things that are really important to you and stressing yourself out. Because the more you stress yourself out, the more energy you're using and the less you have for the things that are actually important to you, like playing a fun game, snuggling up with your fuzzy loved ones, or having a really great conversation, which I know are the things that you love. Life feels pretty amazing when things are done on time or even in advance. And then you can actually enjoy your Netflix binge, or you can enjoy your video game or a cozy novel without any guilt or self-judgment. Wouldn't that be incredible? You can actually have that, HSP. I want that for you. And you deserve it as a highly sensitive person. You put so much care and attention and energy into everything you do. You deserve to have that same energy reflected back to you without the stress. I will see you on the next episode for the next problem that I will be helping you solve in this series about common highly sensitive problems and how to overcome them. They do overcome you, and now I'm going to show you how to overcome them so you can take control of your own high sensitivity. See you on the next episode. Thanks for listening. If you're ready to take what you learned today to the next level, head over to stephanielynn, that's LINN.com, and book a consultation call to get started. I can't wait to see you there, my dear HSP.